The snow was falling so fast that night, it looked like the sky was sinking to the ground. Most people had already rushed indoors, locking their doors, turning up their heaters, and waiting out the storm. But on a quiet country road outside a small Colorado town, 15 freezing bikers were stranded, shivering beside their motorcycles as the wind roared like a wild animal. Cars passed them without stopping. Porch lights were on, but no doors opened. Everyone was too scared or too busy, or maybe too unsure, to help. Everyone, except one 78-year-old woman named Evelyn Parker, who lived alone in a creaky wooden house with a sagging roof and a heart big enough to warm the whole world. She saw the bikers from her window, and instead of fear, she felt something else. Compassion. She didn't know that by opening her door that night, she would ignite a chain reaction of kindness so powerful it would change her entire town. And she had no idea that by sunrise, 100 motorcycles would be lined up outside her little home, their engines silent, but their message loud. Before we dive into this heartwarming story, don't forget to subscribe to True Story Tales, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us bring you more real-life stories that inspire, move, and remind us of the goodness still alive in this world. Evelyn Parker wasn't a woman anyone expected to be a hero. She was quiet, gentle, and lived a simple life. She made quilts for the local shelter, baked pies for church fundraisers, and walked slower each year as her knees reminded her she was no longer young. But her heart, that never aged, that night, as the storm thickened outside, she was about to settle into her armchair with a cup of tea when she heard it, the faint rumble of engines struggling against the cold. She peered through her front window and saw the line of motorcycles, their headlights glowing weakly through the blowing snow. The bikers huddled together, their jackets white with frost. Most people would have looked away, but Evelyn simply said, "Oh, these poor souls," and without thinking twice, she grabbed her coat, opened her front door, and stepped into the storm. The wind nearly pushed her over, but she waved her arms until the bikers saw her. "Hey," she shouted. "You fellas need a place to warm up?" The men stared at her, stunned. Big, rough-looking guys with beards and tattoos. Men who looked like they could survive anything. Yet at that moment, they were helpless, freezing, and unsure whether to trust this tiny grandmother standing on her porch. One biker, a tall man with a heavy leather jacket and a scar across his cheek, stepped forward. "Ma'am, are you sure?" he asked over the wind. "We don't want to bother you." Evelyn's response was simple. "Son, if you freeze out here, it'll bother me a whole lot more." And that settled it. The 15 bikers followed her inside, brushing snow off their jackets and stomping their boots. Evelyn's house was small, cluttered with old photo frames, quilts, and crocheted blankets. The heat wasn't strong. Her old furnace struggled on the best of days, but compared to the storm outside, it felt like a warm oasis. Evelyn hurried to the kitchen. "You boys sit down. I'll make something hot." The bikers exchanged looks. Awkward, unsure, grateful. The man with the scar, whose name was Roy, whispered to the others, "Sit down. Be polite. She reminds me of my grandma." Evelyn pulled out everything she had: canned soup, bread, leftover roast chicken, and her prized homemade apple butter. She wasn't wealthy, not by any measure, but she served them like honored guests. As they ate, the bikers slowly relaxed. The tension in their shoulders eased. Their voices softened. The house filled with laughter and warmth, something Evelyn had not felt since her husband passed away 3 years earlier. Roy looked around and shook his head in disbelief. "Ma'am, you didn't even hesitate to help us. Weren't you scared?" Evelyn chuckled. "Son, at my age, the only thing that scares me is running out of tea." The room erupted with laughter. But beneath that laughter, something deeper formed, a connection built on kindness freely given. After dinner, Evelyn brought out quilts for the men to sleep on. "You all take the living room," she said. "I've got an extra heater I'll plug in." "Ma'am, you've done enough," Roy insisted. "We'll manage." "Nonsense," Evelyn said. My husband, he used to say, "if you have more kindness than you need, give it away. And I've still got plenty." The bikers slept soundly that night, safe and warm. And Evelyn stayed awake for a long time, sitting beside the window, thinking of Jack and how proud he'd be. By morning, the storm had passed. Bright sunlight bounced off the snow-covered ground. The bikers cleaned up the living room, washed the dishes, and shoveled her walkway without being asked. When Evelyn opened the door, she gasped. All 15 motorcycles were lined up neatly, their chrome shining in the sun. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Roy stepped forward. "Ma'am, we can't thank you enough. If there's ever anything you need, anything at all, you call us." She smiled softly. "Your gratitude is enough, dear." But Roy shook his head. "No, ma'am. You don't know what you did for us. People look at us like we're trouble, like we're dangerous. But last night, you didn't judge us. You saw we were cold. You saw we were human. That means something." Evelyn patted his arm. "I just did what anyone should do." The bikers left with warm hugs and promises to stay in touch. Evelyn waved until they disappeared down the road. She thought the story ended there. She was wrong. The next day, Evelyn woke to a strange rumbling outside, dozens of engines. Confused, she slipped on her robe and opened her front door, and froze. Not 15 bikes, not 20, but almost 100 motorcycles lined up along her street. Men and women in leather jackets stood in a long line, holding bags of groceries, boxes of firewood, new blankets, heating supplies, and even tools for home repairs. Evelyn's hand went to her mouth. "Oh my heavens!" Roy stepped out of the crowd, smiling wide. "Morning, ma'am. I hope we're not too early." Evelyn blinked. "What is all this?" Roy spread his arms. "Last night, I texted the whole chapter, and then they texted other chapters. Word spread fast. Everyone wanted to come meet the lady who took in 15 freezing bikers on the coldest night of the year." Another biker stepped forward. "We brought food for your pantry." A woman with pink hair said, "We heard your furnace is old. We're installing a new one today, no charge." A younger biker nodded. "We're fixing your roof too. Snow won't get through anymore." Evelyn felt her eyes fill with tears. "Oh, I can't accept all this," she whispered. Roy gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "You already accepted 15 strangers into your home. This is nothing compared to what you gave us." For hours, the bikers worked, hammering, shoveling, repairing, cleaning. Some chopped wood. Others painted her porch. Someone even fixed her old mailbox that had been leaning for years. Inside, the women organized her kitchen, stocked her shelves, and brewed fresh coffee. Evelyn stood in the middle of her living room, overwhelmed by the sight of so many people giving without expecting anything in return. One biker handed her a brand new rocking chair. Another fixed the crack in her wall. Someone hung a framed sign above her fireplace that read, "Kindness is never small." Evelyn wiped her eyes as she watched them all. Her husband's words echoed through her memory that if you have more kindness than you need, give it away. She smiled softly. "Jack, look what you started." By the end of the day, her house looked better than it had in 20 years. And when the bikers finally prepared to leave, one by one they hugged her. Some called her mom. Others called her Angel. Roy hugged her last. "Ma'am, we'll be checking on you. You're family now." She squeezed his hand. "And you boys are mine." As the engines roared and the long line of motorcycles rolled down the snowy road, Evelyn stood on her porch waving, her heart fuller than it had been in years. Conclusion. Uplifting ending. From that day on, Evelyn was never alone. Bikers visited her weekly, mowing her lawn, fixing her fence, bringing her baked goods, or just sitting with her for a cup of tea and stories of her youth. And whenever anyone in town saw the line of motorcycles outside her home, they didn't feel fear, they felt hope, because kindness, once planted, grows bigger and stronger than anyone expects. Evelyn didn't have much money, or strength, or power, but she had a heart willing to help 15 cold strangers in a snowstorm. And in return, she gained a family of 100. Her story became a reminder whispered through the whole town. And now, through this video, one small act of kindness can echo louder than 100 roaring engines. And sometimes, the simplest gesture can change the world. So today, let's take a little inspiration from Evelyn Parker and choose kindness. You never know how far it might travel.